Hi, I'm Will. Okay, maybe I'm not Will. But this is What's Leaving and What's Left, a podcast about divorce. Why what's leaving and what's left? Well, maybe you're leaving, and maybe you're left. Which is to say, this is a show about divorce. It isn't a how-to guide. It definitely isn't a substitute for legal representation or therapy, although we will plead with you, please look into both those things. It might be good to mention here that there's nothing here to be construed as legal or medical advice. What's leaving and what's left is real divorce stories of real people. The idea came to me when I realized how many men I knew were going through divorces that would never look for help as they deal with divorce, or that when help was offered, they would never accept it. And yet when they found themselves in a divorce, they wanted to talk to me about it. Interestingly enough, but maybe not surprisingly, their stories, and maybe yours, have a lot in common with each other. And while I can't claim to be an expert on divorce, relationships, psychology, anything, I think finding familiarity and common ground in some of these stories might be soothing and somewhat therapeutic. And maybe, at the very least, we can provide a parasocial group for people having trouble finding, or people having trouble even beginning to look for, help. Welcome back, everybody. It's William here with another episode of What's Leaving and What's Left. We are joined today by Mitch. Mitch, thank you for kicking off Pride Week, even though this will not air right during Pride Week. It's Pride Month.
Right.
And I'm glad you could be here to join us this June. How are you doing today, Mitch?
Good. Thank you. Thanks for having me, William.
Absolutely. So, Mitch, you were married?
I was married.
Okay. So how long were you married?
A little over half a decade.
A little over half. Okay. I like that. A little over half a decade. And how long were you with your partner before you got married?
About
roughly?
a decade.
About a decade. Oh, wow. Long-term relationship. And how old are you now?
Mid-40s.
Mid-40s. Okay. So how long ago was your divorce?
It's been a couple years, going on a couple years.
Going on a couple. Okay, cool. So you've got a little bit in the rear view there, and so how are you doing there, Mitch? I will edit that. I will edit that. That was me almost outing Mitch, but not here to dox anybody. And I'm going to make a note that around 1 minute, got to edit that out. Are you feeling okay, Mitch?
Yeah, I'm feeling fine. I'm feeling good.
Okay. And don't worry,
Yeah.
this is a safe space.
Sure. Thank you.
All right. Mitch, I'm not going to go easy on you. Where we start with everybody is in the middle, which is to say we are going to start at that moment that you and your partner, whoever initiated it, however it initiated, decided and had a conversation about, I want to have a divorce. We are getting divorced. Can you start us there in the middle?
Yeah. You asked me this before we started recording, and I was having a hard time even pinpointing when that moment was, because there was so much in the middle where it came up over and over again. It was
how long would you say it was so it was a conversation that continually happened? Yes,
it did. And it started just a couple of years after we got married, actually, which would have been, longer into our relationship.
So what was that? So a couple of years after you were married, what did the divorce conversation look like?
There were a lot of, it was always me. It was definitely always me bringing it up. It was definitely me using the D word. It was definitely me showing unhappiness in the relationship. And I feel like my wife would have never said anything, whether she was happy or not. She wasn't unhappy enough to ever want to leave. She was more apathetic than anything. And I feel like if I hadn't been so dissatisfied, we would still be married, whether she was happy or not. So it was definitely always me.
And was that the number of times you had this conversation? Was it around the same thing? Was it, I'm unsatisfied and I feel like you don't care that I'm unsatisfied, we're not changing anything about my level of was it that the consistent theme of all these conversations?
Yeah, we had kind of some toxic ways of communicating. So no matter what the disagreement seemed to be, it always got to a place where I was so frustrated that I wanted to unalive the relationship.
Okay. Thank you for using Instagram terminology. This makes it friendly for posting on all our social media. Okay. So that was consistent. Now, what changed between a couple years into the marriage versus, the half a decade or so later when this conversation comes up again? Like, what's the difference in seriousness? What actually pushes this over the edge?
I think it is. I would like to say, I think so much of it wasn't about the relationship getting worse. I think it was about where I was in my personal growth, how I felt about being, in this world. That changed. I think I was becoming a stronger person because of different things going on in my life, that it was okay for me to finally say, what you're giving me in this relationship is not enough.
And would you say that you felt strong enough to be alone, or that you had enough of a support group outside the marriage? Like, I'm just, you're saying that it was a personal journey that got you there.
Yeah, it was definitely, it was me being stronger in my adulthood, with my friendships, with my career, with all of those things, where I was just healing. I think when she and I first got in a relationship, I wasn't in a very healthy place. So the relationship was good enough for me. It was a safety net. It was me not being okay to be alone. And as I grew over that decade, it wasn't enough for me anymore. So I don't even think that my ex really changed that much. I think the whole thing was me changing for sure.
So now that we've kind of started here in the middle, walk me back to like that personal development. Who were you when you got married? You were late 20s, if I'm doing my math correctly. We're looking at 15 years of relationship-ish, and you're in your mid-40s. Were you early 30s, late 20s?
I was early 30s, yes.
Early 30s, okay.
When she and I met. And actually,
what was going on in your life? Who were you?
I remember very clearly the day that I decided to ask her out. I'd been alone for a while. I'd been single for a while. And something insignificant happened in my day that kind of felt significant to me. And I felt like, ooh, I don't have anyone to tell this. It was that feeling of like wanting a witness. And this was a few years in from a pretty big breakup. And that was a breakup I should have healed from, instead of
How recent
moving on to something else.
Before this evening you're describing?
About 2 to 3 years.
Oh, okay.
Somewhere between 2 and 3 years,
Okay.
but still, it wasn't
Processed.
It was not processed. I hadn't been taking the time to heal. I had been trying to camouflage, cover up.
Okay. So that night you wanted to be seen. Yeah.
And so I reached out to my ex, who was had been a friend earlier in life that I'd always kind of had a crush on. And I think here's what the biggest part about that was. As we started dating, I had looked up to this person. I had looked up to her. So I was so busy in our courting process trying to make sure she liked me that I didn't really take the time
to figure out if you liked her.
Yes.
And you really needed to be liked.
Yeah. By this person I did. That was important to me. And so, I did like her. Her personality, who she is as a person, is great. There was just definitely something a little bit missing, as far as the level of passion or emotion or energy for the love affair that I wanted. And of course, the first couple of years, it's always, even though later on in life I felt like she was a very unromantic person, the first couple of years is always pretty exciting in a relationship.
The fireworks are there. Yeah.
Right. You're meeting each other's families. You like each other's families, and that makes it more exciting. And,
you're getting to know each other's private bits.
Right. Which is always exciting in the beginning. Right.
Yeah. It's like, what do you do for the first 3 months of any relationship?
Right.
Be real. Yeah. So that's always the fun part. That's the Disneyland. And then people stop being nice and start getting real. Anyway, so
right.
So what kind of So let's go fast forward a couple years into the marriage. You're married now, okay? You met this person, you liked her, you started the courtship process. Is there any big landmarks that we want to cover before the marriage, and I get to that?
It's just one of those things. We were together for so long. We had been together for so long, it seemed like the next step to do, and then once you decide to do it, same thing. All the family's all excited. Everyone's excited. You kind of get swept up in the planning of it, and the party of it, and the celebration of it. And the truth is, it was about the wedding, not about the marriage. And then you're like, oh my God, what am I doing? What am I doing? But then you don't want to break up. We didn't want to break up. We had pets together. We had our lives were very integrated. We enjoyed each other's company. There just wasn't any sort of, excitement about the relationship. And so you don't want to break up, but you don't want to get, it's hard to call off a wedding and still stay together. It's just such a weird, and it becomes so much about everyone else's expectations instead. And
did you feel like a lot of pressure from friends and family to like push through this?
They were just, everyone was so, maybe I didn't have such a great picker in my past relationships, and everyone just adored my ex so much, which, they should. She's adorable. But yeah, I did. I felt a lot of pressure. Everyone was so happy for me, and on the inside, I was just like, meh, meh, meh.
This is, believe it or not, I'm not that bought in. Kind of, yeah. Did you, okay, so there's a lot of pressure. You end up getting married. And was the beginning of the marriage, did you know things were wrong, or did it take 2 or 3 years before you started throwing around, I'd like a divorce, I'm dissatisfied, or whatever it is?
I was really depressed about 6 months before my wedding.
Really? Because you knew, like, hey, this feels something's off. But you didn't want to call it off.
I was underwhelmed by the amount of romantic energy that we had in our lives and that I felt from her.
Interesting.
And and again, it felt like it was enough for her. It did. It felt like that was enough for her. And I just felt like I was trying to poke the bear. I'm like, does she have any feelings? Like maybe if she, like a little kid wanting attention, whether it's good attention or bad attention, like, let's start a fight so we can get a little energy in this house right now. I'm not going
to armchair psychiatrist this, because that is not the point of this show. Have you ever done any digging into attachment style theory?
I think William, maybe you have talked to me about it before.
I may have talked to you about it. Anyway, I wondered if you had, because I'm kind of like, there's some familiarity. I can see potentially 2 attachment styles in you and your partner. But anyway, I'm not here to prognosticate. I just was curious. So was there like an argument that, like, a couple years in, or was it just like, you know what, I'm sick of this. I'm sick of nothing happening. I'm sick of the spark not being there.
Yeah, there were arguments. I'm sick of this. It was all of that, but really within the relationship, there wasn't any safe place to have those kind of discussions. There wasn't any safe place to talk about not being happy. There wasn't a safe place to say, hey, what's going on with our sex life? Or let's, can we do something different in our sex life? There wasn't a safe place to talk with my partner. She just wanted everything to be okay all the time. And she didn't want to, there was no picking any scabs,
Yeah. Okay. So when you say there's no safe place, you felt like you would try and broach these topics, but your partner would be like, icky, kind of like would shy away from actually having that discussion.
Right. And then so eventually, I just became apathetic as well. So then we were both apathetic. So that doesn't mean there still weren't fights. There'd be fights because you still you're living with someone, you're sharing life with someone. There's arguments about things like that. But mostly it was just like a general apathy in the marriage, and eventually I didn't want to have that anymore.
Yeah.
I just thought, in the beginning of it, in those earlier times when I was so pretty much depressed, I thought companionship. I was like, okay, this is companionship. I'm better at taking care of other people than I am at taking care of myself. I want a partner.
Mm-hmm.
I think that almost anyone that really wants a partner can get a partner. It's just a matter of, is it the partner you want?
Sure.
I have tons of respect for people that stay single, even though they really don't want to be single when they don't have to be. I have tons of respect for people that would rather be alone than be with the wrong person. That's not where I was, though. So generally there was just that apathy. I thought, this is as good as it gets. But honestly, the apathy went both ways. We both became not good partners. We just were having very separate lives.
You were roommates.
Mm-hmm. My ex didn't really have any
pets.
She didn't have any interest in doing anything that she didn't want to do, So
there was no like meet me halfway on this kind of
thing. Right.
Yeah.
So people that knew me at that time, most of them didn't know her. They all knew I was married, but she never, she was never at events or things with me. Rarely.
Yeah. And so 5 years of that, things came to a head.
I cheated on her.
Oh, not an unfamiliar story here.
Yeah,
I've been there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Infidelity, anyway, sorry.
That's okay. It came to a place where I was done with being done, and someone came into my life very accidentally. It was not something that was pursued. In fact, this person, I had known the person for a little while without ever even being really interested in them. It wasn't, but,
You guys took an interest.
Yeah. And it was a catalyst.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It was a catalyst. As my relationship with my wife was ending, I said, I would like to say that I didn't want this to happen, but the truth is I'm excited it happened, because who doesn't want love? Who doesn't want love? So it was sticky and it was painful and it was hard. And of course, the minute that you give something up, all you remember is the good parts about it,
Sure.
And the life you created. And losing in-laws is hard.
Yeah. And so there was infidelity. Did you come forward with it? Were you caught? Or was it just kind of like, I need to get out because I've met somebody new?
Mm-hmm. A little bit of everything, a little bit of all of that. But I wish that I was definitely starting an exit plan, and she did find out.
Right. Yeah, no, it's I appreciate you for being vulnerable. It's tough to talk about. I'm always impressed when guests come on and they're open about that part of a relationship, because it is, I don't know, as much as I'm empathetic to infidelity, it is important, I think, to have people on that are remorseful about it. It's like we can have people on who are serial cheaters and who feel nothing about it, but like I feel like I have good friends like you, Mitch, and I feel like we aren't inviting on sociopaths. And so thank you for sharing. And as vulnerable as you are being right now, it's tough. I imagine there's a lot of emotion that goes with what happened there, and losing the in-laws and losing a marriage where you are now seeing only the good things that came from that. How fast did things kind of end after that?
It's a while. It takes a while to unravel.
Yeah.
A life that's entwined. So it took a little while.
15 years. You were together 15 years or so. Yeah.
Not quite that much. It was about
over
a decade. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't want to give out too many details, because I don't want to.
No, absolutely.
Make it so obvious in case my ex ever hears this podcast.
So it's tricky. You're trying to. It's okay if we don't need to get like into specifics.
Right. I don't know how to. Right. But so.
Go ahead and just tell us. Can you share how it wrapped up?
Yeah. So, like all good lesbians, we're still friends.
Damn it! How do you guys do this?
It was hard. And you know what, too?
Guys still meet for softball.
Right. Softball and hot dogs. I am still with my partner now is that person that I left my marriage for. And it has been a bit of time, and we are having a super exciting, wonderful relationship. And so I don't regret anything. I regret how it was going. I hope that in my journey of healing, I hope that I brought some good things into my ex-wife's life, and she wasn't just collateral damage on my healing journey.
I would like to believe if you guys are still friends that that's true. I think as much as you can look back and go like, oh, but the good times, as we all do in relationships when they fall apart, she's probably in the same boat, looking and going like, man, that was a cool hoe, right? Like she got me through some rough patches, and we were there for each other, and we really built a real life. You doing okay?
Yeah. I'm
Mitch.
fine.
I know
good.
it's a challenging place to revisit. I know. I like to talk to people because it's such having been there, having had the infidelity, being caught in the infidelity, or confessing to the infidelity, and then the dissolution of a marriage. I feel like I'm always curious about people's coping mechanisms. Like, what do they do to like soothe themselves as they're dealing with the grief from that? Like I said, you're not a sociopath. There's real emotions that come up about these things, right? And so, healthy or unhealthy, was there any kind of coping mechanism that you kind of dove into to sort of treat the grief process?
Well, I think the old saying, no, the best way to get over a man is to get under another man.
Heyo.
The new relationship really helped, and especially this relationship that started as a friendship. And so there wasn't that falsity of, trying to impress someone or trying to make someone like you. Like I had gotten that trap with my ex. Like, this person already saw me warts and all. I wasn't courting a friend. And
you weren't going, hey, look at me, like me. Right.
Let me tell you all the good things about me. You can find out the bad things later.
And then I'll figure out if I like you at all years down the road.
Right. So new pattern. Yeah. So that's it. It's been, love is love, and love heals. And so having this relationship is what's gotten me over. Even if my ex did hate me and think I was a terrible person, I would hate that, but I wouldn't have changed it. It wouldn't have changed what outcome I wanted.
Yeah. I just, as you said that, I was like tempted to say like, what happened when the infidelity was brought to light? And then I'm like, you know what? Mitch doesn't you were actively avoiding that discussion because I think that probably gets into doxing territory where it's like we can pull that thread a little too cleanly. And so I'll respect your distance on that answer.
I'm sure that a lot of people out there have had some very uncomfortable discussions, and this was definitely a very uncomfortable one.
Yeah, people tend to find out this information and they don't react warmly to it. In my case, I slept in my kid's room.
Yeah, I was close to that.
Yeah, different kid. Oh, edit. All right, we'll edit at 22:50.
Sorry, no, I made a poor joke about my current partner.
Oh God! Oh no, Jesus!
But you're gonna take that.
Yeah, I know. I will edit that out.
I will tell you this though. This is one thing. Even though that very uncomfortable 6-hour heated conversation, when it came to light that I was no longer my wife's partner and someone else's partner. When that moment happened, that I realized that my wife knew, and I was getting ready to tell her. It's hard. It's hard. I said to someone, this is why people get sloppy, is because we want to get caught, because it's so hard to start that conversation.
And it seems like it seems easier to cheat and get caught than to just talk to your partner.
To say, sit
right?
down, I have to break your heart right now.
And
or
to
break
be fair, this is you're not the first person with this story. And as you said up front, you felt like it wasn't safe to discuss real feelings and real issues.
That's true.
Like these things wouldn't be heard. They don't go anywhere. And so I do see, I can see how you might go, this is futile to try and have this discussion. So I don't know, here's a nuclear bomb. We're going to talk about this, aren't we?
Yep. Oops. Now we have to face it. And so that moment when I knew I had to face it, what I felt was not fear. I mean, I was obviously, there were a lot of emotions. So I was scared about what was going to happen next. And I did feel regret. I felt terrible that I was hurting her. But what I felt most was relief. Here it is.
'Cause it's like
forward movement. Here we go.
Did you, I mean, I can assume, and I know you well enough to not need to pretend I don't know the answer. Felt like you were living a double life.
Oh, for a little bit there. Yeah. And it happened to, and I couldn't. And you know, what's funny too, is that she sensed it. We talk about women's intuition and things, but, the last couple months, it was like she was more romantic than she had been in the last 10 years.
Interesting. As you were pulling away and
as I was pulling away
for another human.
Yeah. And I couldn't. So I did. I felt terrible. I am a good person. I'm a good person. You know, all's fair in love and war. You know, it is what it is. So should we leave every relationship before we start another one? Absolutely. It doesn't work that way. People get married for all different reasons. People cheat for all different reasons. We can't ever put a strong moral code on a million different set of circumstances.
And yeah, I think the important thing, yes, we all infidelity is brought up a lot on this show, and it is whether people are willing to learn and grow from it, whether people are still, and that's kind of what I'm hoping this show provides, is like an opportunity to reflect and grow, and or to have a moment to go, have I grown? You know, when they hear stories about like, I did this, I was this way, this is how I was in relationships, and to go, okay, and this is what this person did. So I asked about coping mechanisms, and the new relationship helped you kind of through the grief process. Has there been any, do you have like a therapist or like a spiritual guide or spiritual practice or anything?
Well, I do have, I would consider having I would consider myself having a spiritual practice. Yeah. I think I do not have a therapist. I'm sure we could all use therapy, get therapy.
It's expensive though.
Yeah. I've got incredible relationships in my life. I've got love. I've got people that I can be 100% authentic with right now. And
I know your current relationship. And it seems like that is a safe space that you did not have in your marriage. That is a relationship where there's no taboo topics, right? You right. guys are extremely open and communicative about anything and everything. Does that sound accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That doesn't mean that there aren't like some conflicts and fights and things like that sometimes, but it's great. It's great. It's like being in love with your best friend.
That's very cool.
If you have a best friend that you can be totally honest with.
It's hard, and I think that's something that that's my personal work right now. My partner has been doing a lot of the work with like just an uncomfortable honesty and being full of integrity, and then me, I tend to clam up. I tend to freeze up, and it's not that I don't want to talk about things, it's that it makes me uncomfortable. And so I guess that's I don't want to, or I literally don't even know where to start with certain ideas.
Right. Sometimes, hey, William.
You have to take a little break?
I have to pee.
We'll take a break and we'll be back with what's leaving and what's left. All right, we're back. Mitch, you had a nice bathroom break. You feeling better?
To drain the snake.
Perfect. I hope that was successful. And Mitch, I wanted to know. You said you're amicable with your partner still. How long did that take to kind of heal and to make right with everything there?
It actually happened incredibly fast with, of course, I would say hills and valleys, right?
Okay.
Um, I was incredibly gracious with taking the fall being the bad guy, which actually I think was very good for my ex too.
Yeah.
I think gave her the power of being the right one, and the one that was done to instead of the doer. I think that helped in her healing, as far as how to present to her people what happened. I was incredibly gracious with just being the bad guy, and we actually cohabitated for a while. Like I said, it takes a while to untwine your lives, and we lived in separate rooms, and I was dating my now partner, and my ex was seeing people here and there, and we would coordinate who was going to be home and who wasn't going to be home.
And how did those conversations look? Like, was it just very much like, I'm presenting a fact to you and walking away kind of thing?
I think my ex found a lot of power, a lot of coping, let's say.
Sure.
And one of her coping mechanisms was to be also to be the gracious one. It was her that said, let's not burn the house down around us in this divorce. Let's get through it as easy and practical as we can with everyone and everything involved. And for the most part, it was very kind of matter of fact and easy. But then, we are women, we have these cycles, and sometimes we're more sensitive to our emotions at other times. So every once in a while I would walk into a situation with her, or a room, or a conversation with her, when I was like, uh-oh, here we go again. Time to be the bad guy again and again and again and again and again and again, which is fine, because I was the bad guy, and
so you were willingly like walking into things like,
I was
just get it all out. I'm
yes,
here, be a punching bag.
I was just relieved to be on the journey of the disillusionment, I just, and again, that doesn't mean that I don't miss, like a TV show that we really like together, that doesn't make like nostalgic of when we used to hang out and have dinner in our old house and watch this TV show. I mean, I miss her. I spent so many years of my life with her. I miss her as a person, but I was just so excited to have excitement in my life. I was so excited to have this exciting love in my life that I was just...
when you guys finally moved out, was it the legal process? Was it like, did you litigate, or was it just mediation, sign the papers?
It was super easy.
You didn't own property.
We didn't own property. We didn't have kids. We were married just shy of the 5-year mark, so we just put it right through.
Yeah, that goes super cool. So that helps. So you don't spend a lot of time in litigation.
It was easy.
Spending money on lawyers.
And again, we would meet at Starbucks and fill out the forms, and all of that was very amicable. That's okay. Everyone meets at Starbucks.
Everybody meets at, honest to God, yeah. Like, there's a couple places. You met at Starbucks. Whoa, we absolutely have her location narrowed down to every city possible globally. Oh gosh, I know you're super sensitive to your ex-wife's feelings about you still, and I guess about your how your side of the story is. Do you have any idea
I'm just sensitive about feelings in general, her feelings in general.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think she would say if she was on this program? Do you think she would be more open about, or would she be like, I'm worried about Mitch getting a hold of this? And
no.
Do you think she'd be like, that bitch, kind of like right off the bat kind of thing? Or?
No, she would come in and she would give good face, like she always does. She would give good face, so she would say whatever she needed to say to represent herself as the best person possible. That's how she goes through life. Again, you wouldn't get anything really authentic.
Okay, but she would present. Okay, interesting. Yeah, no, I just wonder because I respect the sensitivity. Like I think it's really cool that you're concerned that and I'm flattered that you think that it's possible that this show might get back around. Put that in my journal today. But I yeah, I don't know. I feel like how long ago was the divorce? A couple years?
So actually, it has been the separation has been a couple of years. The
Okay.
divorce has been a little less than 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but it's just like about that 2 year mark. Talked to somebody the other day that says like usually the divorce processing point is about 2 years, and the grief that it's associated with it, and then there comes the point of where a lot of us divorced people on the show are of yeah, fuck that guy, fuck that girl, like just kind of the
Right.
I, that is
Right.
I am not here to coddle their feelings anymore, and
Yeah.
I am comfortable with the facts. I am comfortable with my journey and where I'm at. Anyway,
Yeah.
so you are still a little sensitive and concerned about it, and so I'm just like, yeah, I don't know. Is it just because you are that thoughtful and you don't have a fuck that person kind of bone in your body, or
Not for my ex-wife. I guess
Uh-huh.
yeah, maybe I don't have that. I maybe don't have that
Yeah,
that
respect.
bone. Yes, I just
You're a
don't. I don't want to
gentler
hurt
person.
feelings. I don't want to hurt feelings. I mean, I already did, right?
Sure. I mean,
I did. I've done enough to my ex-wife with the between the infidelity and the living happily ever after with the mistress.
Sure. I get that on paper that's like, real arch villain kind of like behavior or something, but at the same time it's like this is the excuse that every boomer parent gives us, which is we were doing the best with the tools that we were given. You know what I'm saying? I'd
Right.
like to believe that we're doing better than our parents did because we have more tools, because we have more awareness, because we are open to the prospect and possibility of divorce in ways that our parents never were. I think in relationships we deal with them better because we're never like, well, you're stuck with me.
Absolutely.
Right? There's no gun to
Absolutely.
anybody's head.
And as a woman, obviously, it's gotten a lot easier in the last 50 years, well, in the
Sure.
last 20 years, even the last 30 years, especially for women to be independent and to usually we have our own careers. We're not as dependent on our husbands. We have a lot more protection now. So, but yeah, I think that a lot of the trauma from the Gen Xers is watching our boomer parents in miserable relationships not
Agreed.
getting divorced.
Well, good. Did your parents split?
Yes.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
Mhm.
I just for your ex-wife, did she feel like divorce was a possibility, or as many times as you brought it up, in those arguments over the years, did she kind of go like, no, that's not something we do, that's not something people do, you know?
Well, yeah, so her parents weren't divorced, but I don't know if that means that was a good thing or not.
Yeah.
But yes, she thinks that the apathy of
Just coexisting.
romance was important to her, right? So for her having that I dotted and that T crossed of having having a wife was important. You have a good job, you have a wife, you buy a house. That
You
was
check the boxes.
that was important to her. So no, it would have taken a lot. Like the infidelity, I think maybe
She still would have stuck with you.
maybe if she hadn't. Here's the thing, you can't unsee things, and
Sure.
and with cell phones these days, and I know this has happened to other people. She did get the phone and saw the language of how we were speaking to each other, and I don't know if she would have been able to forgive that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a hard thing, but maybe there would have been a time that if I begged and pleaded and promised, we could have worked on the marriage. But I think people cheat for some. I don't want to generalize I don't want to generalize sexes, but it seems usually women don't cheat this as much as men cheat as far as just opportunity. Men and some women I know, but some people will cheat on someone that they don't want to leave.
Right.
They will put a marriage in jeopardy that they don't want to lose just because they have the opportunity to get some strange. Right. I think a lot of times when women cheat, they're looking for a reason to leave.
Okay.
They're looking for that catalyst. They're looking for the point of no return.
Yes, and I'm glad you said it. It's a point that actually I think a lot, but not to completely dox myself as a straight white het cis male. I don't feel comfortable sharing such generalizations. Like I'm like,
sure,
girls be like and guys be like. Like I don't need to be that white guy with the podcast expressing those views, but I do concur. I do think, and that's I've been approached by married women during my single years, and
right.
And it looking back, especially with what I know now, I'm kind of like, they weren't in a great place. They would have loved for us to get caught,
right?
Not just wanted to, but that would have been. They would have gotten that argument. They would have gotten that fight over her. Whatever
Maybe
it is
that
that
revenge
they needed,
that they were looking for.
Whatever the emotional release is, that is missing. And I don't want to generalize it either, but I definitely saw that behavior and definitely knew, like, you don't just want this. You want this and to get caught.
Right.
And that is, and fellas, keep that in your mind. That's scary. You don't necessarily want to go home with somebody who wants you to get caught in a love triangle and have to deal with that fallout with that husband or whoever else. Keep that in the back of your noggin there, fellas. Anyway, sorry.
Right. People cheat for all different reasons.
But a common one, which you've brought up, is that the communication isn't open. That it doesn't feel safe to have the hard discussions that need to happen to keep the relationship growing.
And sometimes too, like before I started the affair with my current partner, I did have fantasies of leaving my ex and starting fresh and being independent, and then getting to a point where I can date again and maybe finding excitement and love and all of that again. But it's like, you need something to tip the scale a little bit, it's that, again, everything else that's involved, like, is the grass really greener on the other side? Do I just need to quit fantasizing about this and try harder, or get a new hobby, or, I don't know, get a baby monkey or something,
I think, yes. And I think another important thing is, you say, do I just need to stop fantasizing about this? But also analyzing, like, what is it that's creating this fantasy? Is this fantasy really just, is it sex? Is it wanting a new relationship? Or is there something else that's not being expressed and cared for? Is there a deeper control issue or something where that feels, anyway, I don't know, I'm not saying that's your journey. I just feel like it's important to get in touch with that as we discuss infidelity. Like, what is really driving the desire to fuck around? Anyway, that's my 2 cents on that. Sorry, I kind of took over.
It's your podcast.
It's our podcast. So, how did your friend's family deal with all that? Did you lose all your friends?
No. I lost all of her friends.
Yeah.
That's for sure, and that was a big loss. But then you realize, I think it's like what you said about the 2-year mark too, when all of a sudden you realize, like, wow, all of those extra people I lost. Excuse me.
It's all good.
All of those extra people I lost out of my world, I didn't really need them. Look at all my own people I have. I have all my own people. But my mom, I was a little nervous about telling my mom, and I told her honest what had happened.
Oh. Do you want to pause for water?
And what kind of host? You let me go dry. No, I'm okay now. I think if it happens again, we'll pause. I called my mom, basically the conversation was like, hey mom, I know you really like my wife, and, we had the big wedding and everything, but, I'm a big cheater and I had an affair, and, we're breaking, and, she found out, and we're breaking up, and, I'm going to be dating this other person now. And my mom said,
Drop it all
yeah,
on her at once.
and she kind of said, "Oh, okay." And I gave her the practicalities of, what steps were happening next as far as where I was going to live, and all of this stuff, and how my ex and I were doing with it. And she was like, "Well, okay, all right," and just very matter of fact. And I said, "Are you disappointed in me?" I'm a grown ass woman. I said, "Mommy, are you disappointed in me?" And she said, "What? No, of course not." So, life is life. You just love is love.
And it's good that you have a mom who loves you.
Yes.
No matter what.
Yes.
Because when you can I give you the potentially dicey joke visual that I got from you sharing all that? All right. I'm breaking up with my wife and I'm moving in with my new paramour. I just pictured one U-Haul pulling away from the house and running over your mom, and then another U-Haul backing up over her and pulling right back in front of the house.
Right, just to breaking her heart.
Yeah.
No, she was great with it.
Yeah.
She said about my my ex, she'll always like her. She really liked her. There was nothing wrong with her. She thought she was a great person, but that my person and I now are a much better couple.
I love that.
And I love that she sees that, and I don't care. I'm a grown-ass woman. If she didn't see that, I don't care. I'm not going to be in a marriage for my mom, right?
Don't you like her enough, or should I break up with it? Don't do that. Don't do that, guys. All right. So is there any closing thoughts for people that might be familiar with your situation at any point along here, or any words of advice or comfort that you might want to give a listener?
I guess, we just all deserve to be heard. And I think that if you don't feel heard where you are, then that's a big sign. And if you can have real conversations with your partner and yourself, then as long as you're always being honest, everything's always going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Coming from the cheater right over here.
Right. No,
coming from the Scarlet Woman, just always be honest.
Yeah, it's way easier to not have to remember your lies in the midst of a double life.
I think this too, if you're always questioning, I think that when you're in a good relationship, you don't think about your relationship. If you're constantly thinking about it and wondering if it's right, or if you'd be happier without it, or should I stay or should I go? Should I stay or should I go? I think the answer's always go. If you have to think about it, you're not where you want to be.
Yeah. I think it's not to be cliche, but to go ahead and recite a cliche. If you have to push, love's like a fart. If you have to push too hard, it's probably shit.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
You shouldn't have to think about everything. Yeah. Shouldn't have to be is the relationship okay? Am I okay?
Right.
Am I on eggshells? Are they on eggshells? Am I always thinking about whether there are eggshells?
Is this love? Is this not love? Is this love? Is this all that love is?
Yeah.
And when I say when you're in a good relationship, you're not thinking about it, I don't mean you're not thinking about your partner.
Right.
I mean, you're not questioning the relationship.
The relationship is a third person.
Right.
There's you, there's your partner, and then there's the relationship. And there are, it has its own friends. It has its own energy. And it has its own entanglements. The California law treats your marriage as a third being, right? Mm-hmm. As its own individual entity. So I think constantly obsessing about how is that guy doing? How is that little relationship person doing?
Do we like that guy? Do we not like that guy? What's that guy doing now?
Yeah.
Oh, God. Look at him. What's he doing now? Why is that guy eating with his mouth open all the time?
Oh, God, he's drooling. It's everywhere. I hate him.
I
think I'd be better
it's
off
opening its mouth again. What's that guy talking about? It's going to talk to me.
Oh, God. Okay, Mitch, it's been a pleasure to have you on, and thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing your story with us today. Kicking off our month of Pride, very exciting. Hopefully, we'll get some more good gay and lesbian tales of divorce. Listen. Having agency over your married life means also having agency over your divorce life. It's part of it, people. And we look forward to celebrating with all of you on this bummer of a podcast I call What's Leaving and What's Left. We had fun today, Mitch. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
My name is William. This is What's Leaving and What's Left. Have a great day. What's Leaving and What's Left is written, produced, and hosted by William. Nothing the host or guests say should be construed as legal or psychiatric advice, so please, lawyer up and get therapy. Thank you so much for listening. Please continue to listen, like, subscribe, and share with a friend you believe may benefit from this story.